Hello friends, Tal here, and welcome to Mythic Ursoc in the Emerald Nightmare raid. This is the big ol' gear check, the wall, the thing that's going to stop your progression very quickly, very early, and often. As much as there are a couple of mechanics to this fight that are easily you can fuck them up very easily, and things that can go wrong very quickly, at the end of the day, it is without a doubt a gear check, and it's going to come down to whether you have the gear and the comp to do it or you don't. Plain and simple, nothing to argue there, and you're gonna know very quickly if you can make it or if you can't make it. Now, as far as the differences between this and heroic, there's not much really. There's one honestly thing that changes, and that is simply that when Roaring Cacophony goes out, a bear ad is spawned that then will charge your raid, who will also copy the Roaring Cacophony that Ursoc does, but usually will die so quick so he doesn't have to worry about it. But when he dies, he does leave the little goop that the original Roaring Cacophony makes. So the only thing you have to worry about there is obviously it has to be tanked, and obviously when he dies you need to make sure Ursoc isn't doing Roaring Cacophony, because then you'll just be instantly feared, and that very easily leads to a wipe, whether he kills people or they just lose the DPS uptime on the boss because of the fear. Beyond that, nothing else changes. 3 core mechanics to the fight, and that is the tank swap, which is still Overwhelm, and the rend. You still want to go ahead and not fuck that up. 2 blows to 1 rend, or 4 and 2 rends, depending on if your tanks are able to manage the dot or not. I, as a Guardian Druid, never had an issue, but our prop warrior had major issues dealing with the dot. Just a normal basic dot by himself, so we had him stacking up to 4. Again, you can still bop off the debuffs if a mistake happens. If you guys are quick enough to realize the mistake is going to happen and you call for it quickly enough, you can still save the right by doing that. There is still a charge that Ursoc does where he just focuses a person and he goes and charges them. The difference being that on Mythic, you don't want to go too far, so you want to have the person that's chosen use a cooldown in defensive or something, because you need the uptime on the boss. If he's going the entire room distance away and then you have to wait for him to come back, your melee is going to hate life, and flat out you're not going to make the enrage timer, so you have to keep him as close as possible. Your tanks, you guys, my channel's for tanks. You have to do a decent amount of DPS. You have to push as much DPS as you can without dying and without messing up your mechanics. And it's even more important that you quickly move Ursoc out of the Roaring Cacophony, because DPS need to be able to be hitting the boss. It is a tight check. You cannot mess up, and you cannot do things that will easily lead the raid to messing up. Beyond that, the only other real thing is 30% he's still going to enrage, but the enrage is going to be pretty crazy because everything starts coming out faster. He starts hitting harder. That's when you're going to want to try to lust, or a little bit before that. You want to do as much damage as you possibly can. Remember that Roaring Cacophony does damage based on whether you're close to the boss or not. So if there's 2 people standing in and he does it, he's gonna like 2-shot or 1-shot those people. But if your entire group is standing into it, it's not gonna be as much damage. So you don't ever want to be too far away from the boss. Don't try to preemptively leave when he's roaring. Stay near, get hit, then jump out. But beyond that, it's simple. If you reach the whole way around the room and you get back to the puddle and you still have way too much to go, he's probably already enraged. He's probably about to do a 1-shot, and the 1-shot is the soft enrage, but actually the hard enrage is when he's at that last couple percent and he decides to do a charge and he just 1-shots everybody in the raid, no matter what you try to do. If you reach the whole way around in the room and you start running out of room, you don't have the DPS, or you've moved the boss way too much. If you've moved the boss only the minimum amount that he needs to, and you reach the other side of the room and he still has too much health, you're done. You don't have the gear, you can't make it. It's frustrating. I'll be honest with you guys. It's a very frustrating fight, because as a tank, you do have a lot of responsibility in this fight, but there's not a lot that you can ultimately do. You need to be doing as much damage as you can, but if you have the DPS, you have it. If you don't, you just don't. And it's very easy to tell whether you're going to be able to do this boss or not. I would say that it is a decent idea of a boss. It was supposed to be the version of the Butcher from Hymo, but in here. The issue is that with Mythic plus dungeons and split raids and everything else, most guilds were able to do this the first week. We were able to do this the first week. It wasn't that insane. It was kind of annoying, but with Mythic plus dungeons again and a couple of legendaries, you make the DPS check decently easy enough. Honestly, it's a disappointing fight. I wish there was more to it. I wish there was more things going on, but there isn't. And it just comes down to, you don't mess up the DPS check and you don't mess up the tank swap. There's not much more to it. Honestly, there's not a lot of positivity that I can give this fight. Again, I think it was a decent idea and concept, but there's just not enough going on for the rest of the raid, honestly. And even in the tank, knowing that you have to taunt swap on a very tight schedule, and by the way, you cannot taunt that ad. That ad needs to be MDT, or you have to hit it with something and just hope it sticks on you, because if you taunt and you put your taunt at 8-second cooldown, you're basically letting your other tank die. You're messing up the combo somewhere along the way. It's not enjoyable. It was a very stressful fight doing, because simple little things messed us up all the time. And of course, sometimes we had issues where until we changed it up, the bleed was just wrecking our warriors. So it was a very big issue. And then just someone not soaking, or someone not going too far, or just, someone had bad RNG and then you wipe. It's not a fun fight. It's really not a fun fight. But ultimately, it is a very basic fight. And if you have good coordination and you got a little bit lucky with some gear, you won't have too much issue. Now, all I need is for him to drop my goddamn hidden artifact skin, and I'll be perfectly happy as a nice little cool bone bear. Anyways, guys, that's been the fight. Hope to see you guys around for more of these mythic videos. We got the dragons coming up next, and those are a bit of a doozy. See you guys around. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and drop it a like. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content just like this. And I want to thank the time each and every single one of you took out of your day to go ahead and watch this, as well as a very special thank you to my Patreon patrons who continue to make this dream a reality through their monthly continued support. If you'd like to go ahead and become a Patreon patron, you can go ahead and click right there on the logo. It'll take you right to the page. And other than that, you can go ahead and tweet me or follow me at Tauriel here on Twitter. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, fantastic day. See you guys around.
Turns to gray, we'll calmly walk away from the fray. When structure falls and all else fails, we